Team Canada doesn't mean that we support mining and development of all proposals except bitumen. That's not Team Canada. Team Canada is that we support our neighbors and being able to build out the Port of Prince Rupert so that we can get doubling of the rail line, so that we can get pipelines of bitumen, natural gas, and liquids to the coast, so that we can get an export of all of our products. That we're an all of the above kind of province.
Well, we love to check in with the Premier of Alberta, the most consequential province in so many ways, my former homeland. And I say homeland with a little bit of tongue in cheek, but joining us now to talk about the possibility of a different future for Alberta is Premier Danielle Smith. So, Premier, welcome back to the show. Great to see you.
Good to see you, Ezra.
Well, I tell you, the whole country, if they're not focused on it now, they certainly will be soon. You have announced that Alberta will permit a referendum on independence. Tell me how that's going. Is that still on? When will the legislation and regulations be in place?
Well, as you know, I mean, part of the United Conservative culture has been to support direct democracy mechanisms. And so my predecessor brought in a policy around citizen initiative and recall. And what we learned with a few years of testing it out is that the bars were very high, actually so high as to be unachievable in the request, in the number of signatures you had to get. So we had, over the last year, done a consultation. We're aligned a little bit more now with the way they do it in California. You know, California has 5 to 10 propositions almost every vote. And so we'll be allowing for 10% of the previous voter turnout. If people can get, which turns out to be 177,000 signatures on an issue, they can put that to the people in a referendum. So I noticed that when it came out, there were a couple of questions that have already been filed with Elections Alberta. One, let's be a strong Alberta within a united Canada, put forward by the former Deputy Premier Thomas Lukasik, and the other one looking at independence. So I'm going to watch that process, see how it plays out, see how many signatures get gathered, and then if the bar was reached, we'll put it to the people for a vote.
Wow. You know, Canada has had occasional referendums in the past, whether it's the Charlottetown Accord or Quebec independence. It is a Canadian thing. It's just not that often used. To me, the value of it, whether someone wants separation or to stay in Canada, is it's an or else when the Premier of Alberta talks to the Prime Minister of Canada. It's a way of getting the attention of the Laurentian elites who normally don't care. How has this issue animated or informed your discussions with the new Prime Minister, Mark Carney? Has he raised the subject? Does it look like he's worried about Western independence? Even if you're a staunch nationalist Canadian, having that in your pocket may help a negotiation.
Well, I look at the numbers as very concerning, and I take them seriously. Some of the polls have shown the sentiments as high as 37%, and that's the highest I've ever seen it. I've been watching it for some time. The sentiment has ebbed and flowed over the years. I mean, you'll recall there was a separatist who was elected in 1982, Gordon Kessler. I think Western Standard, when you were leading it, did some polling on this, and the sentiment was high again during the final years of Jean Chrétien. And so we see it now at a very high ebb once again. And we should take it seriously because it goes to a deep frustration that Albertans have at the past 10 years of Liberal government standing in the way of their aspirations, their wealth creation, their ability to get products to market, and a variety of interventions in provincial jurisdictions. So I'm hopeful that this new Prime Minister realizes they have to change course. I mean, I think he does. He got rid of the carbon tax within minutes of becoming prime minister. So I think that he realized that that was just deadly to his political fortunes. And so I think that it's our job to let him understand that there are 9 other bad laws that need to be repealed or substantially revised in order to address the foundational problems that Alberta has in getting its resources developed into market. So that's the conversation I'm starting on with the Prime Minister, and we'll see in a matter of weeks and months if we're successful.
How was his first one-to-one with you with these demands in the background? Did he move at all, or did he use that foggy, opaque language? I observe that he is the master of saying very little And I guess that's a talent as a politician, but if you're in a hurry, like Alberta is, it's not satisfying. Did you get anything from the Prime Minister that you could regard as tangible?
He wants to have a particular project list, a national project list. And I think it's up to us now to get the proponent and the project, get it on the list and try the process out. He wants to have a 2-year timeline to approval, which is a fast track over the existing laws. And then my understanding is he wants to have a parallel conversation about how to modify the laws that are preventing big projects from getting built. So if that's the intention that he has going in, I'm prepared to walk the path with him. But we'll know pretty soon because we'll put a project together, very likely with a terminus point of a bitumen pipeline somewhere on the northwest BC coast, very likely Port of Prince Rupert. And we'll see what kind of reception that gets and whether it's going to be on the list and be fast tracked, because it clearly would be a project in the national interest. In fact, I don't think that there would be any project that would generate as substantial amount of revenue for not only our province, but also for the country as a 1 million barrel per day pipeline that would take our product to new markets in Asia, particularly Japan and Korea and others. It just seems to me to be such a no-brainer. But we've got a little bit of work to do on our end, and then we'll see how the federal government responds.
I want to be good faith in my approach to the new Prime Minister. Obviously, I'm a partisan opponent of him and I'm a skeptic. But if he actually is taking steps toward Alberta, I don't want to ignore that. What's on my mind, though, Premier, is that so many of the people around Mark Carney are the Trudeau crew, and not just any of them. Gerald Butts, for example, who was the architect of, in fact, before he worked for Trudeau, he worked for anti-oil lobby groups. He's at the Eurasia Group, which was, where Mark Carney's wife works, where Evan Solomon, the new cabinet minister, works. So I feel like you've got a new front man, but a lot of the people behind him are the same. Stephen Guilbeault is still in cabinet, etc. Are the men behind the man, the people behind Mark Carney, what are they like to deal with? Can you trust that there is movement, or is it the same old crew?
The thing about Liberals, which I think we on the conservative side of the spectrum find frustrating, is how they can pivot 180 degrees on every issue. I think the one thing that they feel is the existential threat of defeat. And they felt that. We were talking 6 months ago about the potential for a complete wipeout of the Liberals. And this may go down as one of the biggest pivots in political history. But I think that there's a recognition that the pathway of the Stephen Guilbeaults and the Gerald Buttses of the world not only led to an affordability crisis, but also led to an electoral crisis. And so the question that they have to ask themselves is, can they tinker around the edges and get away with it? I don't think so. I think the election results were the way they were because they stole all of the Conservatives' platform. And the Conservatives' platform was very much energy superpower, being an economic superpower in the world on all fronts, getting new markets. Like this was the conservative talking points. Mm-hmm. And I think that the Liberals should be mindful that's what they got elected on, and now they have to deliver. And if they don't, Canadians gave them a mandate that's got a little asterisk on it, right? They didn't give them a full mandate of a majority government. So if they don't deliver, I suspect we'll be in an election very soon, and then we might end up with a different outcome. So I still think it's existential for them. If they want to win, they've got to do what the people want. And what the people want right now is they want us to trade more with each other, trade more with the world, and develop resources that have been kept in the ground for far too long because of bad policy.
Well, it's a very interesting observation. I think you're right. Liberals, above all else, want to win. It would be interesting if oil was the path. Now, I want to play a very short clip. It's just 8 seconds. This is Prime Minister Carney using a term I actually had not heard before. Here, let's just play the clip, and I'd like your reaction to it. Take a look.
Now, within the broader context of national interest, the interest is in, as mentioned in the press release, decarbonized barrels. So working alongside forms of
decarbonized oil. On the one hand, that sounds like dehydrated water. There's no such thing, but maybe he means ethical oil. Maybe he means oil that somehow politically finesses things. What on earth does he mean by decarbonized oil?
There's a couple of ways that you can have a lower emissions barrel when you're doing the production. So on the production end of oil, they use a lot of natural gas to do the steam assisted gravity drainage, and there's also a lot of traditional fossil fuels that are used in the production. Our oil sands operations produce about 67 megatons of emissions, and the Pathways Group that includes CNRL and Cenovus and Suncor, MEG, Imperial. They have come up with a proposal for how they would reduce those emissions pretty well to zero through, first of all, a carbon capture utilization and storage pipeline. Second of all, through technologies that bring in low emissions electricity, whether it's small modular nuclear or having interties with our friends in BC and Manitoba to bring in hydroelectric, or direct air capture to get the last mile. So that's what the Pathways project has proposed. Now, of course, when you sell it,
the Prime Minister means?
Yes.
Like what you're saying is best practices, but you're still getting the oil sands out. Is
Correct.
that what the Prime Minister means, or is he using some tricky word that actually means no oil will be pumped?
No, I think he means that it's all, I called it the grand bargain, but it is, let's do them in parallel. Let's get a new 1 million barrel a day bitumen pipeline to the coast so we can get new markets. And then let's also work on the Pathways project to be able to decarbonize that oil. And so that's one pathway. I can also tell you one of the other things that I've been talking about since I got elected, and this is allowed under the Paris Agreement, is we should be able to use our technology to reduce emissions in other jurisdictions. So, for instance, if we displace 20% of China's coal plants, that would be the equivalent of offsetting 100% of Canada's emissions.
Right.
So those are the kind of things that we need to do more of as well, because if it truly is a global market and a global problem, and we care about global emissions, then we should be worried about the guys who are responsible for 50 and 60 and 80% of the emissions, and not just the country that's responsible for 1.5% of the emissions. We actually have a lot of technology that can be applied to the development of coal and wood and dung and using natural gas instead, that it can have a big impact on all types of emissions, not just CO2, but particulate matter as well. And that should be something the world would embrace, and it should be something this Prime Minister should embrace.
Well, maybe I'll stop making fun of the phrase decarbonized oil then. I thought it was a Carney trick. I have one last question for you. I know you've got to run really quickly. I see that British Columbia Premier David Eby is talking about blocking a pipeline to the coast. And I fear that Carney will defer to him, just like he defers to Quebec politicians who are anti-oil. That's not very break down the barriers-ish of Eby. And God forbid Alberta were to retaliate in kind by stopping BC shipping things by rail or highway across Alberta. I mean, it's bizarre even to contemplate. What is the prospect of that unpopular, discredited, desperate ideological premier stopping an entire national project because he's having a bit of a fit? What's the latest there? Am I too skeptical, or is that guy trying to blow up the whole country?
Well, we're either going to be Team Canada or we aren't. And Team Canada doesn't mean everybody gets their product to market except Alberta. Team Canada doesn't mean that we support mining and development of all proposals except bitumen. That's not Team Canada. Team Canada is that we support our neighbors and being able to build out the Port of Prince Rupert so that we can get doubling of the rail line, so that we can get pipelines of bitumen, natural gas, and liquids to the coast, so that we can get an export of all of our products. That we're an all of the above kind of province. And there are obviously issues that have to be addressed. We need a proponent. We need to address some of the root environmental issues that come up, because there always are when you're doing large linear projects. And we need to ensure that there is Indigenous ownership. But I feel like if we do all of those things, demonstrate the national interest, then we'll be able to get approval. I will say that previous BC premiers didn't approve Coastal GasLink. Previous BC premiers didn't approve Trans Mountain, and they happened anyway. And so I would say that if we can make the strong case, that I'm pretty confident that we'll have the people on our side and we'll be able to get those projects built.
I only have 60 more seconds with you, so let me make it a really short one. And maybe it's too early to say, but so far, based on your dealings with the federal Liberals, how would you rate them on a scale of 1 to 10 for listening and working constructively with Alberta? Give them a report card.
Hard for me to put it. I mean, the words are nice. The phone calls are nice. The fact that I can text the prime minister and he responds is nice. The fact that he has had a number of meetings, not only with me one-on-one, but also as a group with first ministers already this early in his tenure, that is a sea change from the previous prime minister. And I do feel like he is genuinely interested in trying to find those projects of national interest. I think we'll know once the project list is assembled. I've seen some of the wish lists of the different premiers. There's about 90 different projects all of the premiers would like to see go ahead. And I think we'll be able to gauge that based on what he chooses. Because remember, we want to choose projects that are going to result in GDP growth, in economic growth, in growth in tax revenue. So if all it contains is a bunch of projects that, public sector transit or highway projects, those may be important, but that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about mines, we're talking about minerals, and we're talking about new markets. And so that's what I'm going to wait and see. Then I'll give you a firm number when I see that list.
Sure. I don't know why the prime minister would have a say or the government would have a say on any of those things, frankly. If they're in the private sector, I don't think we need the prime minister to be the picker and chooser. He's not running not BlackRock, but Brookfield anymore. He's not running an investment firm anymore. He should get out of the way and let all the above go. But that's a topic for another day. Premier Smith, thanks for spending so much time with us. Keep up the fight. It's great to see you again.
Yeah, you bet. Talk to you again.
All right, there it is. Premier Danielle Smith of Alberta. Stay with us. More ahead. Hey, what do you think about Alberta independence? What do you think about Alberta trying to get a better deal within Canada? Do you think Alberta should have the right to vote in a referendum to separate, the same way Quebec did? There's a lot of things to talk about. Can Canada be fixed, or has the West tried that, done that, been there, and it's just not working? Well, we're going to talk about all these things in an amazing day-long conference in Red Deer, the heart of Alberta, on Saturday, June 14th. Go to donegettingscrewed.com to get your tickets now. It's going to be a full day. We'll start with a continental breakfast. We'll have panel discussions. We'll have keynote speakers. We'll even have a debate. I think that's going to be the highlight of it. David Legg, former advisor to the Alberta government, is going to make the case for Canada. Keith Wilson, lawyer, freedom activist, he was with the Freedom Convoy. He'll be making the case for independence. We'll have other people in the debates, a media panel, and people of different points of view, including different political parties. There's going to be a bit of a trade show there too. So we'll serve you 2 meals, but more than that, we'll serve you ideas you just can't get anywhere else. But it's coming up quick, and I promise you this event will sell out. There's only room for 1,000 people. And I know that there have been 1,000-person meetings about this subject all over the province. In fact, we had an event in Calgary that sold out in 2 days when we had only 350 seats. So don't be disappointed. Go to donegettingscrewed.com and get your tickets now. I'll be there. Sheila Gunn-Reid will be there. So many interesting people. Our friends in other media companies like Western Standard, Juno News, and Countersignal. It's going to be a great day. That's Saturday, June 14th in Red Deer, Alberta, all day long. Go to donegettingscrewed.com to get your ticket now. Don't wait. I don't want you to be locked out. It's going to be full. See you there. That's donegettingscrewed.com.